guys, so today we're going to be installing some gauges from the Hungry Diesel. These are Issopro gauges. We're going to be installing the EGT gauge first, and to drill into the manifold you're going to need a 21/64 drill bit and a 1/8 national pipe tap. So it's going to look something like that. Guys, so we're going to be installing our probe right here on the manifold. Now you got to remember that there is a divider in between here, right? So you can't drill directly in the center of your manifold. You actually have to drill off to the side and preferably to the back side. So you can see we made a little mark with a punch there. So that's where we're going to have our probe stick through. So you're going to want to have your probe there because that's where the air coming from your engine is going to be the hottest, and your number 5 and 6 cylinder is going to be a lot hotter than the front. So we're going to drill into our manifold. You want to be very careful with this. You want to make sure it's 100% straight or the tap isn't going to go in nice. Also, as you're drilling, it wouldn't be a bad idea to throw a magnet there to try and catch all the shavings, so that when you do pull it away from the hole, they're not going to fall in. Otherwise, you're going to want to pull your turbo off and clean that, but we're going to avoid that today. You can see that's pretty effective. Boom, just like that. And you want to come out real gentle, catch all the shavings as it comes out. Sometimes a bit gets stuck in there, so you're going to want to play around with it a little bit. Boom, just like that. And there's your hole. Unfortunately, we don't have any tap drivers at the moment, so a 1/4 inch wrench fits best. Just try to get it as straight as you can. Okay, to install your probe, you're going to want a 1/2 inch wrench and a 9/16. You're going to thread that in there. We threw a little bit of thread sealant on just to kind of help it along the process. And slide the probe inside, and you're going to want to back up, and then it'll tighten down and it'll hold the probe within the mount for it. It resembles a ferrule basically. It crimps down on top of that, and that's how it should look. Nice and tight, not going to go anywhere. Okay, so now that we've got our EGT probe in, we're going to install this boost sensor, and it also has a 1/8 N national pipe tap end on it. So you're going to want to pull the 1/8 national pipe tap bolt out of the intake plenum, which uses, I believe, a 7/16 socket. Comes out nice and easy, just like that, which is the same size as you can see, just like that. So take some thread sealant, give yourself a nice little thin layer on there. Alright, and now to get your sensor into the intake plenum, it takes a 11/16 wrench, so what you're going to want to hand thread that into the plenum first. Obviously, like I said, make sure to get rid of all the thread sealant that might be on the face. You get a smaller wrench because that obviously is too long. And just thread it in until it's snug. It doesn't got to be crazy. beautiful gauge pod made by Holy Performance, and it's made out of carbon fiber and Zylon. So I've got the base already mounted on the dash with the, it's got 3M double-sided Velcro tape, and I'm just going to fit the gauges in here now. Now what you do for that is it comes with these very small, Holy Performance provides these small foam rings that help seat the gauge in place. Now you're going to want to take those, put it on the gauge itself, configure which gauge you want first, second, and third, install them in there. They're a one-time use thing, so once they're in, that's it. So make sure you figure that out early in. So once you got all your foam rings on all your gauges, you're going to want to insert them. Make sure they're 100% where you want them to be, and then there's little tabs on each one, as you can see, that will grab into the gauge pod. Now you're just going to want to push in nice and tight, and those are going to stay just like that. You do that progressively for each one. So I'm going to go with my boost, my pyrometer, look nice and square in there, push it in, and I'm going to go with fuel pressure. Nice and straight, push it in, and just like that you've got your gauges. Now to give you a bit of an idea what it's going to look like, I've already got my base here that is, like I said, 3M'd with Velcro. It's 3M Velcro mounted to the dash. It is a little hard to get it on there 100%. You're going to want to play with it a bit and fit it on there, but the gauges will sit just like that in the pod, and there's 2 screws that hold it down, and then right in here is a hole, a little channel, and a hole up inside the base where your wiring will go up. So it runs parallel to this groove in the dash. It comes under, looks all nice and tidy with loom. It basically prevents you from having to drill holes in the dash, because I know nobody likes to do that. You can if you want, but this is how the gauge is designed. It's kind of like the old Banks Performance mold, so it's going to be pretty nice. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually prepping all the wiring that has to go through the firewall for each of the gauges. I'm going to make sure that each one is individual, tape it up, make it so I can be easily pulled through the firewall, and hook everything up from there. So if you're like me, you're not really a huge fan of wiring, so as you can see, it's a bit of a process to get everything in here, but I'm making some headway. Take your time on it and do it right the first time. Okay, so that's more or less what it's supposed to look like. You have this little applicator tool that pushes the wires actually into the connectors, and you want to make sure you get them right. The instructions are really detailed, so you shouldn't have any problem walking yourself through that. Just make sure that they are 100% connected. There's 2 ways that you can install your fuel pressure gauge. You can get the proper banjo fitting male to female, or you can tap right into the housing and make your 1/8 fitting work, but I'm gonna get the banjo fitting so I don't have to do that. Alright, so I'm not quite done yet, but we're making some good progress here. I've got all the wires into the gauges, just working on getting this loom on, and we got power like that. Alright, so the gauges are all installed. I'm just cleaning up a little bit of wiring right now. That's where the loom goes, down here. And when the gauges are turned on, that's what they'll look like. And there you have it. The Holy Performance gauge pod and the Issopro gauges from the Hungry Diesel. Installed, ready to go. Took a while, but well worth it.